Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Heidi from My Reading Life, and I'm here today to film a review video of Pilgrim at Tinker's Creek by Annie Dillard. And this is the Book Naturalist Book Club pick for the month of June, and it is a reread for me. So Annie Dillard's a very famous author. She writes both nonfiction, fiction, and poetry, and she wrote this book quite a while ago. It was first published in 1974, and I believe she wrote it when she was in her mid-20s. So this sort of propelled Annie Dillard onto the literary map and really cemented her acclaim as a nature nonfiction writer. She has a lot of deep thoughts to share in this collection. She does not think that it's an essay collection, and I would agree with her that there is a strong theme running throughout this book. So what is this exactly? This is a book that's really, and I'm not sure how to pronounce this word, but it's really about theosity, which is the vindication of divine goodness and providence in view of the existence of evil. And Dillard is looking at this idea of the existence of goodness and evil in light of nature. And so she sort of takes a year of her life and observes nature in this place that she lives in the South, Tinker Creek, and looks at what she observes through this lens of is nature good or is it evil? Are we as living creatures good or evil? And can we see sort of divine intervention in these creatures? So because of that sort of overarching theme in this collection, or in this book, I should say, I need to stop calling it a collection, but it does read a little bit like an essay collection. Because of this, it's sort of a book that is successful for me on some levels and not successful for me on other levels. Like the depth of writing that Dillard gets into about individual critters, I loved. But when she sort of goes into philosophy and spirituality and religious context for nature, that's where she loses me. That's not my forte. It's not really a topic that I'm particularly interested in. I think this goes a little bit over the top in terms of writing. She sort of is overwriting some of it at some points, I think, and it's probably due to her age. And she even admits in the afterword in this book that she was a bit overwrought in places and maybe overwritten in places, and she overused metaphor in some cases, and I would agree with all of those criticisms that she makes. But I did like the organization of this book. I like how it runs through all the seasons, and sort of the first half of the book is the positive aspects of nature, and the second half of the book is the negative aspects of nature, and sort of the goodness versus the evilness aspects that she's interrogating throughout this book. The middle section, which is about a flood that happens in Tinker's Creek, and she describes this flooding that happens. I thought that was a particularly strong part of the book. Really liked how she described this flooding happening and how the people in her neighborhood responded to that flood. I thought that was really, really well done. So like I said, parts of this were really successful for me, and those were the parts where she particularly focuses on living creatures, animals and plants in her immediate environment that she's observing. So for example, she has a whole section where she is going down to the creek at different times of day and night and trying to catch out a muskrat when it's active swimming and hunting, not hunting because they eat vegetation, but swimming and grazing or trying to get food, foraging. That's the word that I was looking for. The way she describes that, and how you have to bring stillness to your observations of nature, otherwise you're never going to get to see what you're looking for. I thought that was particularly well done. I think it's something that I have noticed myself, that if you just allow yourself to be still in nature, it's amazing the things that you will see. And then there's another part where she's talking about observing the migration of monarch butterflies. And just from her house, like one particular time period, she notices like individual butterflies sort of flying through the yard, and then there's more and there's more and there's more of them till there's like tens and even hundreds of them flying along. And she describes watching them, you know, sort of cross her property, and how worn out they look, and how it's pretty obvious that they've come a long ways. I thought that was really beautiful writing, and really tied in nicely to The Language of Butterflies by Wendy Williams that I read not too long ago. She also talks, she has this one scene where she describes where she's out in the woods, she's taking a hike, and she observes a copperhead snake on, like, sunning itself on this flat rock where she's never seen a snake before. And she just decides that she's just going to sit there at a safe distance away and just sort of see what the snake does. And so the snake's just hanging out, not paying any attention to her. And she observes a mosquito fly down and, like, land on the back of the snake's neck. And she's like, what's this mosquito going to do to this snake, right? And she watches the mosquito, like, pierce the snake in between its scales and suck blood from the snake, and then, like, fly off all full of blood. And she's like, even mosquitoes can even suck blood from a snake. Like, she's so amazed by that. And that's the kind of wonder and delight in the world that Annie Dillard brings to the table that I thought was really, really well done. And it was well worth a reread for me to revisit those aspects of this book and to remind myself of what I love about being out in nature, and how much enjoyment can be found just by observing the little things in your own backyard. Because this book is not Dillard, like, traveling around the world to, like, some exotic locale to look at some exotic kind of nature. She's just observing, like, regular everyday things that she can see in her own backyard. And that's what I think is so wondrous about this. Like, you don't have to go to some exotic place and see a rare or endangered species. Like, there's amazing and wondrous things happening right where you live, and if you just stop and take the time to look at them. I just thought this was really well done, and I think if you're the kind of person that likes a little bit of spirituality or philosophy in your writing, then you'll probably get along with those aspects of the book better than I did. But still, very worthwhile read, and would recommend for those people that like this style of sort of ruminative writing about everyday things. I think it was really well done. So then for the month of July, we will be reading Thin Places by an Irish author who I am not going to attempt to pronounce because I didn't take the time to look that up. I will do so before I read it next month. And this is a book about this woman grew up in Derry during the Troubles, and her experiences in childhood and how that shaped how she grew up, and how nature helped her deal with the struggle and strife that she experienced as a child, and how what she learned from that can help us today in the types of struggles that are happening around the world with borders and immigration and that sort of thing. It's not a very thick book. I'm really looking forward to this. I think it's always fun to try to discover a new author when you're looking at nature nonfiction. And this is a book that I had never heard of before. Doris brought it up and said we should add it to the list. So very excited to try something completely new. And I hope you will join us for reading this in the month of July and discuss it with us later after we post our videos about it at the end of the month of July. Anyway, I hope you're all doing well and finding some great books to read, and I will talk to you later.